Acceptance. Hi everyone, Antonio Thornton. Today is March 4th, day number 63, lesson number 63 of 365 Science of Mind, and today's lesson is acceptance. And I found a really great quote here, and not sure who to attribute it to, so I'll just say anonymous for now. But it says, "See beyond the vision of your eyes, to believe and trust that there is something more to life, something bigger and greater than where we stand and what we know with our minds." And that leads us right into our text today of acceptance. Now, spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer really is something we do to ourselves. The only direction we give to this treatment, this prayer, this affirmation of acceptance is what we identify it with the person we are working for or the condition we wish to help. This is neither willing, concentrating, coercing, nor compelling anything or anyone. It's rather a quiet inward acceptance of an affirmation of our own conviction, based on the theory that there is a spiritual perfection at the center of all things in the universe, and that there is a fundamental good governing all things. There is one life, there is one, that life is God. That life is our life now. Consciously, we identify ourselves with it. Definitely, we affirm the one presence and the one power operating in and around and through us. Anything that denies this supremacy of good is itself but a mistake in judgment. As we come to open our thought to a greater acknowledgement and acceptance of the divinity that resides within us, we find ourselves on the pathway to achieving the purpose for which we were created, to express the nature of the divine, the source of our being. And here we are with another great lesson of how we choose to operate in this space in our lives. And how does this relate to acceptance and accepting who we are? Well, first of all, this is recognizing who we are. We are this perfect entity expressing itself through, in, and as us. Now, one thing I love to hear, anything that denies the supremacy of good is itself but a mistake in judgment. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. And I talk about this all the time. This physical space that we're living in is an illusion. Time is an illusion in the sense that we are all an extension of the mind of God, the one spirit, the infinite source. We are extensions of that. We're not separate from it. So anything that creates the illusion of separation is just that. It's an illusion, a mistaken judgment. Now, what this talks about, particularly when in affirming and creating, quote unquote, on the behalf of someone else, we can't do that. We cannot create on the behalf of someone else, because that's their individuation experience, and ours is connected, though it's not the same individuation. It's not the same individuation in that we're all one. We're all this one entity, yet we are individuations of that entity. And my individuation of that entity knows what it knows, and you know what you know in your path, your journey, your evolution. You've come to know what you know through your individual experience, or when I say individual, meaning individuation of your experience. So I've been asked before when I've done things that are seemingly miracles, if you will, healing or anything of that nature. There's been times where, my daughter or my son has fallen and hurt themselves, and I would, lay my hands on them, and they would stop crying and the pain would go away. Here's the thing. I'm not doing anything to them. I'm not doing anything to them. What I'm doing is I'm knowing the truth. And I don't want to say for them. I don't want to say knowing the truth for them, because I can only know the truth for myself. But I know that truth, and that truth is not a belief. It's not a hoping. It's not a wishing. It's a knowing of that truth. And I know that the truth is that we are perfect beings, and anything that appears different than that is an illusion. So what I know in that moment is that the pain that we're experiencing, the things that we're going through at that time, are just an illusion. They are illusionary in the sense of there is no pain, in the broader mind, in the greater space of this one entity. But in our individuations, we create these pains, whether it be physical, emotional, etc., for whatever lessons we need to learn. And when I talked about this in another episode. When we recognize that these things show up very differently, we tend to get less frustrated and less hurt and less off-put when we run into things that quote unquote hurt us. So I'm not doing anything to either of my children, and nor do I feel any other healer or any other energy worker or any other person for that nature is doing anything to anyone. Is that they're knowing the truth within themselves, and this other person has the opportunity to accept that truth as well. And that's where that reminder comes from, is knowing the truth about what you believe and know to be true, and allowing that other person. This is not willing, meaning I'm not mentally using my willpower, my mental facilities to coerce or compel anyone or anything to do anything. It's rather a quiet inward acceptance and affirmation of our own conviction, based on the theory that there is a spiritual perfection at the center of all things in the universe, and that there is a fundamental good governing all things. And that word theory in there, I think, is used in the broader context, not as in it is theoretical, but in the sense of if what I say I believe is true, then this is what I know to be true. That's what that means in that instance. So what do we do here for this lesson? What do we take away from it from a practical, pragmatic application? Is accepting the good in everything that occurs in our lives, no matter how it looks. The lessons that show up are for our good. They're for our growth. They're for our development. And when we learn and accept that, these things show up very, very different. The reminder that there is one life, and that life is God. We are an extension of that, and it works and operates in, around, and through us. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move into our meditation and affirmation for today. And as I always like to do, is to get myself grounded and centered before moving into this contemplative state. And I do that by taking a deep breath. And I invite you to do the same. And as I say this affirmation, of course, and just as this lesson said, I'm saying this for me. I'm saying this for my truth. And you are definitely welcome and invited to receive this truth as your own as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a deep breath in and hold it for a second, and then just let it out. Today, I accept my own affirmations. There is nothing in me that can contradict them. I have a deep inward sense, feeling, conviction, and complete faith that there is a power of good governing everything, that it is governing completely, with absolute certainty, without deviation, without exception, and that there is nothing to oppose it, to change it, to limit, or circumscribe its action. I abandon myself to this faith, live in its atmosphere, and accept its conclusion. I know that I am a divine being on the pathway of an endless self-expression, and that the eternal God is my host now and forevermore. And so it is. As always, thank you guys for being a part of this journey of mine, 365 Science of Mind. And I always ask you to like, comment, and share as you feel led and compelled to. And I have the deepest of gratitude for those of you who have been sharing this with friends and family who you feel would benefit from this teaching. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end today's lesson. I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow, March 5th, lesson number 64. Talk to you soon.